The Baron received the news of the near-daily attacks with an uncustomary lack of emotion. When his men rallied, ready to meet the marauders on the field, Debussy gave orders to stay, refusing to leave Northworth, refusing to fight back. One by one his political supporters turned their backs on him, unwilling to help a man who would not help himself. His dreams of power were now laughable, absurd at best. The most recent report of attack came from one of the Baron's holdings just a league away from Northworth. Debussy sat mutely in his chair on the dais at the front of the emptied hall that served as his court between the daily meals. Nigel stood before him with the messenger from the neighbouring castle. "My lord, we must take a stand. These raids are growing more frequent, and with each passing day they draw closer to Northworth." When the Baron did not respond, Nigel leaned in, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "You need but ask, and your men will follow you to battle. Say the word, and we can rid ourselves of this nuisance for good." The Baron said nothing, idly tugging an eyebrow, his unfocused gaze trained on the Debussy banner which hung on the far wall of the great hall. "My lord," Nigel implored, raking a hand through his hair in evident frustration, "each day we are losing valuable stores and money." At last Nigel gained his attention. "'Tis my money, and my holdings. How I choose to handle the attacks is my own decision." "Aye, my lord." Nigel acquiesced with a respectful nod. "Of course the decision is yours. I only wish to point out that—" "I have heard enough." The Baron rose from his chair to descend the dais, thus ending the morning's report. "Shall I ready the garrison, then, my lord?" "Nay," Debussy replied without turning to face his man. "But, my lord, I warrant these raids will only increase if we do not act now. Will you wait until they come rapping on your door?" At Nigel's bold tone, Debussy pivoted slowly and turned a narrowed gaze on him. A long moment passed in silence before the Baron heaved a weary sigh. "Let the devil take what he will." He then departed the hall with his guards close at his sides. Raina knocked lightly on her father's solar door. When no answer came from within, she pressed her ear to the rough oak panel. "Papa, are you in here?" This time she rapped harder, and the door creaked open enough for her to peer inside. Her father sat slumped in his ornately carved cushioned chair, staring out the open window. He did not turn when she entered. Indeed, he hardly seemed aware of her presence at all. In his lap, he held an object. A book. Her mother's Bible, she realized as she drew closer. The same book Raina herself used to pore over when she was feeling particularly lonely and missing her mother. "I'm sorry if I have disturbed your reading, Papa, but when you didn't answer me—" Her voice seemed to rouse him from his thoughts, and he looked up at her suddenly, his eyes sleep-weary and ringed with dark circles. "Are you unwell, Papa? Since the tourney, you've been acting so strangely. You spend most of your days alone in here, and I know you are not sleeping as you should." She touched him tenderly on the shoulder. "I am worried about you." Clumsily, he reached up and patted her hand, though if he heard her concern, his attention seemed focused elsewhere. With trembling fingers, he caressed the edge of a gilded, illuminated page in the book spread open on his lap. "How she loved this Bible! Beauclerk himself commissioned it for her when she was but a babe. Can you imagine that? She was beautiful even then, my Margaret. Beautiful enough to enamour the king on first glance." "Aye, Papa," Raina answered softly, but in truth she could no longer recall her mother's features. Every portrait of her had been taken down, destroyed, according to castle rumour, soon after her death. Now, as ever, her father spoke of his wife only when deep in contemplation or fraught with worry. At the risk of upsetting him, Raina had learned long ago not to press for details of her mother, permitting her father his private reflection. But as a child—